The museum was too bright. The kind of sterile light that made polished glass look like ice, and every voice feel like it echoed louder than it should. Mia stood in front of a photo, black and white, aged in the way truth often is. 8 men posed in uniform outside a corrugated steel hangar in Osan, Korea. The third one from the right wore a half-smile like he'd just remembered something worth keeping to himself. Mia pointed. "That's my grandpa." The guard didn't look down. He didn't need to. His smirk was trained, his tone casual. "Sweetheart, don't embarrass yourself." The words weren't cruel. Not at first. Just dismissive. A practiced shrug of authority. Her grip tightened on the museum pamphlet. "That's him," she said again, softer this time. No pointing now. Just eyes fixed on that quiet face in the middle of history. Finally, the guard looked. His name tag read Denton. His eyebrows rose in mock surprise, mouth curling into the kind of smile people wear when they've already decided you're wrong. "Right. And I'm George Washington. What's next?" "He flew the plane too." A few classmates laughed. Someone near the back pulled out a phone, started recording. Mia said nothing. The teacher, Miss Rayner, approached, her tone dipped in condescension disguised as sweetness. "Mia, honey, this is still about your grandfather?" She didn't wait for a reply. "Sometimes," she continued, "we want things to be true because it makes us feel important." Another student added, "Maybe he fought with Iron Man, too." More laughter. Mia's face flushed, but she didn't speak. Not because she didn't know what to say, but because it was already too loud to be heard. She turned to Miss Rayner. "He told me about this picture. The day before the accident. He said the jet caught fire on the runway. He was there." "That's enough," the teacher cut in quickly, eyes darting at the gathering group. "Let's not waste time with unverified stories. We're here to learn real history." The words stung worse than the laughter. The rest of the class drifted on, pulled by momentum and a desire to stay out of the spotlight. But Mia didn't move. She kept looking at the photograph. Her fingers brushed the edge of her coat where, back home, folded inside her mom's dresser, lay the same picture. Torn at the corners. Burned in one spot. The last thing her grandfather ever brought back. He had told her the truth. She remembered every word. But now she was being told it wasn't real. "There are real heroes on this wall," Denton added, folding his arms. "Don't play make-believe with that." It landed like a slap. And worse, no one said a word. By the time they were back at school, the clip was already online. Just 20 seconds. Enough to catch the sarcasm, the laughter, and Mia's stunned silence. The caption read, "She said her grandpa's in a museum photo, face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy." By morning, 1.2 million views. Brittany posted a reaction video. Someone else added dramatic violin music over her line, "That's my grandpa." By lunch, no one sat near her. Even Caleb, who once shared earbuds with her during silent reading, walked past without a glance. Mia didn't cry. Didn't speak. Didn't eat. She just sat at the far end of the table, hands in her lap, as across the cafeteria Brittany filmed a mock interview, holding a plastic fork like a microphone. "Tell us, Miss Wells, what's it like being related to Abraham Lincoln?" Laughter. Phones. No teacher stopped it. Not even Miss Rayner, who walked by without slowing. That night, Mia opened the drawer. The photo was still there. Folded. Faded. Real. She unfolded it carefully, smoothing out the creases. 8 men. Same hanger. Same third from the right half smile. On the back, in faint ink, Team Norris, Osan AFB, 1970, SSGT Lee Wells. Her thumb passed over the name like a prayer. She didn't doubt it. She just couldn't understand how something so solid could be erased with a laugh. Then she opened a notebook. Wrote 2 sentences. Then stopped. and sat in silence, not because she had nothing more to say, but because she had said it already. And the world had laughed. Somewhere, across the city, a pause button was hit. Chuck Norris sat at his kitchen table, eyes narrowed at a frozen video still. A little girl pointing to a photo. No drama. No theatrics. Just belief, pure, raw, and alone. He leaned forward. Paused. Rewound. Paused again. The edge of the photo in the museum was cropped. But not enough. He knew that hanger. That base. That face. He stood, walked to a cabinet, unlocked it with a key that hadn't been touched in years. Inside, dust. Documents. A box. He opened it. Inside, the same photo. But with full names. Third from the right, Lee Wells. Chuck Norris didn't sleep that night. He didn't pace, didn't stew, didn't rage. He sat. At the old oak table where he once sharpened pencils, then minds, then instincts. Now, he sharpened something else. Focus. The museum's website listed the exhibit under a bold, backlit title. Korea, Quiet Courage, 1965 to 1975. Below it, a gallery. Photo thumbnails. Captions. One caught his eye. Air Support Team, Ocean Base, 1970. Personnel unknown. Chuck narrowed his eyes. Personnel unknown? He knew 5 of them by name. One of them had saved his life. Another, Lee Wells, had gone back into a flaming aircraft to drag out a radio technician who'd passed out from smoke inhalation. Not unknown. Not forgettable. Just overlooked. He leaned back in his chair, opened a folder from the box, and pulled out the service record. Lee's name. His signature. His commendation, stamped and sealed. He took a breath. Then scanned the documents into his phone. By morning, his email had been read. An hour later, it had been flagged by the museum's system. Within 3 hours, it was on the desk of the Deputy Director of Archival Corrections. By noon, her assistant had reached out. We believe you may have some important context. Would you be available for a conversation? Chuck replied with a single line. I'll be there by closing time. Then he called me his school. Asked for the front office. The bell rang at 2:40. Mia stepped off campus with her backpack heavier than usual, not from books, but the silence that followed her through every hallway. She didn't see the truck at first. Didn't expect him to be leaning against it. Didn't know what to say when he tipped his head and said, "You ready?" For what? He handed her a sealed envelope. For rewriting history. The museum security guard, Denton, looked up from his clipboard, then did a double take. His eyes went from Mia to the man beside her. Sir, I'm gonna need. Chuck held up a visitor badge already printed. Denton blinked. Chuck smiled, thin as steel. We'll show ourselves around. They didn't head straight for the photo. First, they walked the hall. Past models of jets. Past uniforms behind glass. Past names that were celebrated without question. Finally, they reached the wall. Mia stood where she had before. The frame was still there. Same photo. Same caption. She stared at it for a long time before whispering. They called me a liar. Chuck stepped beside her. You were misquoted. She looked up. He smiled. Liar implies deception. You told the truth. They just didn't listen. She looked down at the floor. He pulled the envelope from his jacket and walked to the exhibit desk. The archivist met him halfway. This is highly irregular, the man began. Chuck opened the envelope. Laid out the photo. The records. The medals. The matching signatures. The museum staff went silent. A curator crossed the floor. Then a photographer. Then someone brought out gloves. Within 15 minutes, the caption beneath the photo changed on the museum's database. Air Support Team, Ozen Base, 1970. Third from right, Staff Sergeant Lee Wells, commended for heroism under fire. Deceased 2022. Mia stared. Her fingers trembled slightly. Chuck placed a hand on her shoulder. She didn't cry. Not then. But something in her, tightened for weeks, finally let go. Outside, the air had cooled. Denton stepped out of the side entrance as they passed. Mia didn't stop. But Chuck did. They stood close. The guard swallowed. "I didn't know," he said. Chuck didn't nod. Didn't argue. Just said, "Now you do." Then walked away. That evening, Chuck pulled into a small diner off the highway. They took a booth in the back. 2 waters. No menus. Mia unfolded the photo again. "You kept this all this time?" "I kept everything that mattered." "Why didn't you say anything when Grandpa died?" Chuck took a breath. "Because stories don't need to be loud to be true. Sometimes, the world just takes time to catch up." She studied the photo. Then, for the first time since all of it began, she smiled. Not wide. But real. Word traveled fast. Not viral, not loud, just steady. Like truth moving beneath the noise. By the next week, the museum added a placard beside the photo. Donated by the family of Staff Sergeant Lee Wells. With gratitude for his service, and for those who remember. The handwriting below that wasn't official. But someone, likely a curator, had taped up a sticky note. She was right. No signature. But Mia didn't need one. Her classmates didn't apologize. Not directly. No one walked up and said, "We were wrong." But the snickering stopped. The whispers faded. Brittany deleted the video. Caleb offered her the window seat on the bus. Even Miss Rayner nodded politely during attendance. It wasn't redemption. But it was enough. Chuck didn't come to school. He didn't post online. He didn't boast. He simply mailed a copy of the updated museum listing to the VA office. Then filed the originals where they'd always belonged, in the folder marked Wells. And every Thursday at 5 o'clock, he kept a booth at the diner. 2 waters. No menus. Waiting, just in case. Mia did return, once, to the museum. She brought her mother this time. They stood together in front of the photo. The sunlight hit it just right, casting the image in soft gold. Her mother ran a thumb along the edge of the frame, the way someone might trace a face they haven't seen in years. "I wish Dad could see this," she whispered. Mia didn't say anything. But she smiled. Because maybe, he could. In the following months, other visitors noticed the story. A retired pilot left a small medal beneath the glass. A schoolteacher from Wisconsin brought her class and read aloud Mia's version of the photo's backstory. Another veteran saw it and donated his own photo, adding names to another unknown list that had waited 40 years for someone to care. The wall grew longer. More detailed. More human. On a crisp autumn afternoon, Mia walked alone through the neighborhood park. In her backpack, the original photo, tucked inside a plastic sleeve. She passed a boy struggling with a model plane, wings crooked, nose dented. His father was on the phone, distracted. She knelt beside him. "Want help?" He nodded. Together, they straightened the wings. Tightened the rubber band. Got the nose to sit flush. She didn't say much. But when it finally flew, a short hop off the ground, his grin was bigger than the plane's wingspan. "That's better," she said. "Thanks," the boy beamed. "Are you a pilot?" She laughed. "No," she said. "But I knew one." That night, she wrote something new in her notebook. Not an apology. Not a report. A memory. A truth. And a promise. They said he was unknown. But I knew better. He was my grandfather. And that's always been proof enough. Back at home, Chuck sat on his porch, coffee in hand. The air was still. Not quiet, just still. Like the world had taken a breath it wasn't afraid to hold. On the table beside him, the newspaper was folded open to the local section. A small headline read, "Teen helps museum correct historic record." Below it, a photo of Mia. Pointing. Smiling. Chuck didn't say anything. Just lifted his mug. And raised it slightly in the air. "To Lee," he murmured. Then drank.